Hello and welcome to BBC News. We start in Ukraine and multiple disturbing developments from right across the country. Officials in Zaporizhia say a 2-day-old baby has been killed after a Russian airstrike on a maternity hospital in the city. The baby's mother and a doctor were pulled from the rubble, and we'll have more on that development in just a moment or two. But Russia has again launched a series of attacks across Ukraine. 3 people were killed in Kyiv after a residential building was hit. Elsewhere, the country's energy infrastructure was again targeted. The western city of Lviv has been without power for most of the day. Odessa and Kyiv have also reported outages. And the knock-on effects have also been felt in neighbouring Moldova, which has had massive blackouts. Well, all of that comes as the European Parliament voted to label Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, a symbolic move likely to further isolate Moscow. So, let's start the programme by looking at the impact on the ground. Just a few minutes ago, I spoke to Christina Katrakis, Ambassador for the Foundation for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, who told me what it's been like today in Kyiv.
It was quite frightening. It all began around 1 o'clock Kyiv time. First, I heard a very strong sound. Basically, it was a missile hitting about 500 meters from our home. And later on, I found out that it hit the very important highway interjunction and train station, train area just near us. So basically, they were trying to damage those passages, obviously. And then I heard another hit and yet another hit. And later on, we found out that a 2-story building, civilian building, was hit, and also a very important infrastructure site in the city was hit. Hence, the city is without light. I'm currently sitting with a little battery light, so you see in the full darkness. In our place, we have no heat, no light. Also, water has been turned down in the city, and the mayor asked people to store up on water. In my opinion, it is a response, cowardly Russian response to the European Parliament voting today Russia a terrorist state. So, these actions are so obvious that it's just ridiculous, really.
Just in the last few minutes.
This is the worst that
Just in the last few minutes, as you were speaking, the Ukrainian authorities have said that Russia fired around 70 cruise missiles today. As you say, some of them landed very close to where you are. It sounds extremely frightening. It was.
Actually, one of the missiles was going along the Dnieper River, and it was very visible. And you could hear the sound, of it hitting. And when it was close, the windows were shattering. And also you heard the sound of the defense working against the missiles. Ukrainian defense is working very well, but it's nearly not enough. So we're still hoping that Europe and the world in general will react. We need more than just announcing Russia a terrorist state. We need Europe and the world to join and close the sky and actually act and help to stop this monstrosity and this terror. You cannot pinpoint and say you're a terrorist and do nothing about it.
I'll come back to you in a moment, Christina, but I just want to show our viewers and give them a little more detail of what I read in the introduction, that 2-day-old baby that's been killed after a Russian missile strike on a hospital's maternity ward in Zaporizhia. Well, Ligia Bauer is a volunteer from the region when the shelling happened, and she described what went on all around her.
It was almost 3 a.m. in the morning, and we heard 2 blows, and the bed was shaking. The dog was barking and also shaking, because pets are still not getting used to the bombing. They just ruined the maternity ward of Vilnius hospital. The infant baby died. He was born only 2 days ago. And his mother, according to the words of the majority of Vilnius city, they say that she's in shock and she was sent home. 2 doctors were saved, but one of them in critical conditions is now with burns all over his body in a hospital. So doctors are fighting for his life.
Well, a terrible account there, Christina. It is not the first time that medical facilities have been hit in this 9-month war.
Right. And, I'm an ambassador for the Foundation for United Nations SDG, and we have a base for internally displaced people in Borovta in Ukraine, where we provide for more than 5,000 women and children from Mariupol, from Kharkiv, from Mykolaiv areas that we brought in safety. So we've seen that in Mariupol, as you remember, the maternity hospital being hit. Once again, it's like the cowardly tactics of Russia. Instead of, fighting at the battlefield and making progress there, they're bombing maternity hospitals. So right now it's like really unsafe to be born in Ukraine in the hospital. Let me say that. But if that's not terror, then I don't know what it is. We refuse to leave our base. Our team remains here, and we're determined to help women, children in the frontline areas, as well as internally displaced, and provide them with all the necessities. So we hope that world will hear and help us. It's FFUN SDG-Help.org. And we need to survive this cold and dark winter. It's going to be difficult, and we need world support and help and action to survive it.
A really brief final thought, because the mayor of Kyiv was saying to the BBC a little earlier that this is going to be the worst winter since the Second World War. I suspect from everything you said, you're sitting there in the dark. You would agree with that?
Absolutely. And, I'm an American, and my 6-year-old son who's with me here is an American, and we refused to leave. We decided to stay and to continue on helping, because if everybody leaves, then who's going to help? So we want the world to hear our plea and to do the same. British people went through World War II, and they remember how it was in London. So we want you to kind of go back with your thoughts back there and help and act. Close the sky, make the difference. Don't announce Russia just a terrorist state. Act to stop the terror.
Ambassador, we have to leave it there, but thanks so much for your time.